All right.
Uh, I'm too anxious here.
Hmm.
Good evening. This is the August 8th, 2024 meeting of the Needham Conservation Commission. I'm Dave Harrer, Conservation Commission Chair. Uh, Before we get started, I'd like to welcome our newest member, Clary Coutu. Is that how you pronounce your name? Coutu? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we're really lucky to have Clary on the commission. She has quite a bit of directly applicable experience. My understanding is you work as a consultant, you work for private uh, companies, and you've also done some volunteer work, including volunteering for the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. So, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay. So, as a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast to the town's YouTube channel and via Zoom, and is being recorded for publication and later viewing and administrative purposes. First, I'll confirm the presence of the members and staff. When I call your name, please respond. Uh, Sue? Oh, I see you.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think she's just connecting.
all right, Sue's here. Clary?
I'm here, present.
Reed is, I'm not going to make it. Bill?
Present.
Fred?
Here.
Paulina?
Here.
And the staff, Deb and Clay?
Here.
Okay. This open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom. All supporting materials have been provided to the commission members and are available on the town's website. Here are some ground rules for our meeting tonight. This will allow for a smooth and effective operation of our business. I'll open and introduce each hearing on the agenda, then introduce the applicant and/or their consultant to begin their project presentations. After conclusion of the applicant's presentation, I will call on the staff and then each commission member to provide their comments or questions. Please wait until your name is called. After comments or questions from the staff and the commission, I will solicit comments or questions from the public. Please mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken during this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay. So let's go to the agenda. Do we have any minutes? I didn't see any.
There were four.
Yeah, we had two sets, I think, Sue.
Yeah, all four. Yeah, and I did send in a couple of things.
Yes, we did get Sue's corrections. I don't know if anyone else had anything, but
Okay, for some
They were
reason,
great, by the way.
they were what?
They were great.
Yeah, so what were the dates of the minutes?
they were 7/25/24 and 12/2/21.
Okay,
And then
so,
then there was 7/11/24 and something.
There was other ones too.
Yeah, there we didn't it didn't pass last time around because
Oh,
they
okay. So 7/11, and what was the other one?
7/11/24 was there a October one? Oh, I know. I think it was a 11 something 21.
11 something 21.
okay, so
Let's see.
There were four sets.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize we had another set. All right, I'll find the other date. 12/21, 12/21.
I think it was the meeting before 12/2, which would have been 11 something 21.
Okay, yeah, it was 11/18. 11/18/21.
okay. So Can I have a motion to accept the minutes of 7/25/24, 12/2/21, 7/11/24, and 11/18/21?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Clary?
Well, she probably can't vote.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
can.
I
No,
can.
oh, yeah.
Oh,
Did she
yeah.
read them?
Um,
It's up
not
to her.
thoroughly.
It's
No,
up to you if you want to vote, but you know,
I
you
think
can-
I'll abstain for this round. I agree with, yeah.
okay. Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
and Sue,
Hi.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, anything new on enforcement or violations?
No, nothing at the moment.
Okay, so let's open the hearing for 49 Green Street, DEP file 234-911. This has been continued a number of times, and I believe that the applicant has made some of the changes that that we have asked for over the past meeting. Who for the applicant will give us a quick summary? Andrew?
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas here on behalf of the Needham Golf Club. Also with us on the call is Tim Hood, the superintendent of the Needham Golf Club, and Ken Matska, the chair of the Greens Committee. After our last meeting, we did have the fortune of meeting with yourself and staff to go over and make sure we understood specifically what the commission was asking for in the revisions to the planting plan. So since then, we have significantly expanded the species that we're looking at. We're significantly expanded how we're breaking up the work. So I'm going to share my screen and provide an overview of what this replanting plan looks like after those revisions. So we have the various replanting areas. You'll start to see some dots. This is the Northern Stream area, Harris Avenue here, Great Plain Avenue here. The MBTA line is here, bisecting the site. You'll see some areas in red and blue. One thing that we discussed prior to this meeting when we spoke with staff was breaking this up in terms of phases. So the blue dots represent the trees that we want to remove as part of the phase one of this removal effort. So we've identified those. We've also removed that large red oak tree that's accounting for a lot of the canopy cover here. So as we move forward with this project, the phase one trees that we're proposing to remove are the ones that we know for certain are going to be affecting play with shade, and they're part of those invasive species communities that we're looking at. And then the areas in red, so there's going to be a stopgap between phase one and phase two. And the idea is that we'll seek some counsel from conservation staff, perhaps the commission itself, before we move on to phase two, the areas represented in red. And we have a planting plan which accounts for phase one if we were to stop there. And then a phase two planting plan which accounts for the full build out essentially of the tree removal if we were to pursue that. So this sheet here is the area shown in black. These are our phase one replantings. So if we are to remove all the blue dots in phase one, we've expanded this just beyond the original red cedar and dogwood plantings that were shown. Here we have a more robust planting scheme than we were originally proposing. So this is that southern T area. So there's a BVW here bounding it to the south. The idea is we'll plant them in the buffer zone surrounding this practice tee. And then this is that forested area here up on the embankment. Harris Avenue is right here where my cursor is. And then in the later sheets, you'll see that phase one is grayed out. So you can see by stark contrast where the plantings will be in the phase two area. So as we start to lose some real estate in areas that we're able to plant in, we're expanding the replanting elsewhere on the course. Here, this is that MBTA line here, and on the first screen, this is that man-made pond with the asphalt lining. So we have trees and shrubs proposed here. We have our trees and shrubs proposed here, north abutting the MBTA line. So ultimately, what we're presenting is what we feel a more robust planting scheme than just the two species that we were proposing before. And in addition to that, we have staggered it in such a way as there will be a stopgap between the two tree removal phases where we seek input from the commission, essentially looking at what we've accomplished has affected play in the areas that we're looking to achieve, and then go from there and see if the full phase 2 needs to be pursued or some truncated version of these additional plantings at that point in time. So I'll go back to the locus sheet and invite the commission to ask any questions or have any dialogue.
All right, thank you. First, let me ask Deb or Clay if you have any comments.
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. Then let me go to the commissioners. Sue?
So it looks like there's a phase 1 and phase 2 with tree removal.
Correct.
Phase 1, how many trees will be removed with phase 1?
So phase 1 contemplates the removal of 27 trees, and then phase 2 contemplates an additional removal of 19 species. Yep.
Okay, and this is within our jurisdiction we're talking about.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and then after your first phase, there is a robust planting plan that you would get some consultation from the conservation staff with. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, as we understood it, it would either be a condition where we're coordinating directly with Debbie, or if Debbie feels with the commission directly, if we're come before you and go through what we've achieved, how it's being successful, what we feel that needs to be done further based on what we've seen on our boots on the ground approach. So the commission has asked us to really consider a phasing plan, and this is our best attempt at that because we know phase 1, these are what we absolutely want to achieve as part of the project, and phase 2, we're going to investigate that based on field conditions. But we have 2 planting plans to account for both scenarios.
Okay. Okay, and then timeline. The planting plan for the phase after the phase 1 would be when? I mean, the actual planting.
So I understand that they want to start this work in tandem, and Tim, feel free to jump in, but in the fall. So I suspect that phase 1, both the replanting and the tree removal, should we be so fortunate to have an order of conditions, would be kicked off this fall. And then later on, we'll need to see, when is the most appropriate time to start pursuing phase 2.
Okay. All right. And there is a planting plan for phase 2 also when that happens?
Yep, I can go back to those sheets. So the areas that are grayed out here, so the areas that are grayed out are the phase 1 plantings. So those are proposed to be installed, absent of what we choose to do with phase 2. But then you have these darker things here. We have the shrubs and the trees, and then here we have our plantings, the first green and the 9th forward tee. So we'll go back to the locust. So those areas here to the south. So we're still close to the stream over here, and then this BBW complex here. So we're still within jurisdiction.
Okay, it sounds much better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I so the stream is part of this as well, right? The work on the stream.
Yep. So that was the notice of intent is twofold at this point. Now we've added on this tree work, which has extended the public hearing process.
And when's the stream work going to take place?
I believe this fall as well. Tim, do you want to fill in the gaps on that?
I think what we're planning on doing is to do the tree work and plantings first, and have that project complete, and then we would start the stream work. So since we're doing most of the work in-house, I don't anticipate the stream work to begin until fall of 2025.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Larry, I know you're coming in cold on this, but feel free to ask any questions.
Well, I am new to the project, so Tim and just forgive me if I'm going to ask a redundant question that has been asked before. In terms of the plantings, how did you determine the number of trees and the maturity level of these trees and the ratio of replacement, if you will, and also the mortality rate of the proposed plantings? That's just my question.
Yep. So I can answer that specifically as it pertains to the selection process. So originally when we came before the commission, we only had 2 tree species spec'd out. We had dogwoods and the junipers proposed. So going back through this, Tim took a critical look at the property, and there a lot of this is being done in-house. And we collaborated on a list of tree specimens that were of interest. And what we leaned heavily on was the arithmetic of the tree policy that Needham has. So 2-to-1 replacement for trees, or a 4-to-1 replacement for shrubs. So we have 21 trees being replaced in the phase 1 scenario with 136 shrubs. So it's a lot larger of an effort than what we're originally proposing. And then with the phase 2 area, 48 trees are proposed to be replanted along with 183 shrubs. So it's more biomass than what we were originally proposing to install in months prior to this conversation. But to Debbie's point in an earlier meeting, we're not doing any plantings on the stream bank, so this helps foster that biodiversity elsewhere on Locust.
Okay. And I'm assuming you will have an O&M plan and a review of the plantings over the course of 2 to 3 years thereafter to see.
We do
they-
condition 2-year monitoring with a
Perfect.
75% survival rate when they come in for the COC.
I think it's quite a diversified group of plantings that you have proposed. I don't have any other comments.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bill, any thoughts, comments?
I have a question in general. One of the tree policy asks that a reason that why the trees are going to be removed be included. And is it because of the shade and how that affects the play? Is that what why the trees are being removed?
That is one of the reasons, but some of these are also part of invasive species clusters that are part of the cleanup, like the northerly part of the site. Again, a lot of these species I can go to the list. So looking at like this cluster here, you see a lot of Norway maples and a lot of the black cherries. Well, all the black cherries that we've observed in this area, they're suffering from black rot. So there's some merit to removing them, but also to a point that Debbie made in a previous meeting, the Norway maples, while they are invasive, have ecological values. So we want to replace and meet the policy as best we can.
Okay. And this might seem like a silly question, but trees will grow up and have shade again. And has that been taken into consideration?
Yeah, so some of the understory plants that we're proposing are varying levels of shade tolerance. We're looking at arrowwoods, and there's some witch hazels and whatnot in the planting list. So we were factoring that in. A lot of these are also open in south-facing areas, so there will be some consistent sun exposure.
I think he's asking if you're going to plant trees and they're going to grow into trees that will then put shade in the same areas that you're removing them from. So
Yeah.
was that taken in
They
consideration?
won't. The main concern on the south side by the first green is our main concern there is the sun exposure to that green, and we won't be doing any plantings back in that area. We've chosen other areas in your jurisdiction
That's right.
for plantings, so we don't have a concern of future shade issues where we're planting, where we need to maintain healthy turf.
Okay, great. Thanks for your answer.
Okay, Fred?
No other questions or comments. Thank you.
All right, great. Oh, Paulina?
I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any new questions. I appreciate the applicant's effort to respond to our comments. I know this process took about a year, but you know, I think we ended up with a good plan.
I agree.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Yeah. Okay, so now I am going to suggest continuing the hearing, and at the next meeting, we'll have the order of conditions ready, and then, so we can close the hearing and then issue the order of conditions right away. That's sort of like a new practice that we're doing so that we don't get caught up in the 21-day time frame. It really is not going to affect anything because we're not in a position to issue the order of conditions today anyway. So we'll have to wait to the next meeting for that. So is that okay?
Yeah, would the commission entertain closing the hearing in the interim, or do you prefer to keep that open until?
Yeah, we prefer to keep it open because, you know, we have a requirement that we have to issue the order conditions within 21 days. And sometimes because of reasons beyond our control, we can't do that. And, you know, it just gets messy. And so, you know, from a schedule point of view, it's not going to have any impact for the applicant. The next meeting, you know, you'll get the order of conditions.
Okay.
Oh, I did have one thing. So you did request a waivers, I think, with your initial filing.
We're working on the bank for the stream restoration. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the check that you gave us, I think it's like a year old now, the $1,000 waiver fee check. So we will need a new check. I think it only goes for 3 months or something. So I'm happy to return the one we have, if you will submit a new one.
Okay, and that was the filing fee for work within the 25.
So that is the waiver fee.
Okay. Yep.
So the commission will decide if they want to give back any or all of that. But it is a requirement when you request a waiver.
Okay.
Okay.
I forgot to ask if there was anybody in the public with their hand up.
There are no raised hands.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue this hearing for 49 Green Street, DEP file 234-911 to August 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Paulina?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Reed? Reed? Hello, Reed? You're on mute. Clary?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Fred?
Aye.
Okay, good. So, all right, we'll see you in a couple of weeks, I guess.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks great.
Thank you.
All right. Next project is 17 George Agate Road, DEP file 234-930. And this is a continued notice of intent. So let's open the hearing And I know that the applicant has made some modifications to their proposed plan. And I guess, Sue, do you want to, or Susan, do you want to, run that by us, or
Sure.
or
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, I can do that. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Can you see that yet?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi there. I'm Susan MacArthur from MacArthur Environmental Consulting. At the last hearing, the commission had requested a few changes to the plan. So the first change is we revised the number. It was written wrong. The proposed increase in impervious surface within the inner riparian zone, 220 square feet is what it should be. So we changed that. The type of dry well system someone had asked about, it's a Cultec, now listed as a Cultec 330 XLHD. The proposed mitigation area, it was discussed to increase the size of that. So it was that dash line is this area. So we pushed it to the back, toward the back of the property within the erosion control limits. And it is now 374 square feet. And it will be planted with the native wildflower seed mix. We did add another tree here to compensate for the large tree that we were taking out up front here. It was, it appeared to be 30 inches or so. So we added another pin oak there, and we also added more. There was a discussion about adding some more placards to extend, toward the front of the property. So in other words, this whole area is kind of a no-mow naturalized area. So we did that. And then not shown on here, but we did change the waiver request form to include the proposed mitigation area as compensation for work in the 25-foot buffer zone. And the applicant has since, I think, and Deb, you can confirm this, dropped off a check for the waiver fee.
Yes, I did eventually get the check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for $1,000. And I think that is it.
There were, I don't know if these were old comments, but there were comments from GEP on the website. Let me know if you want me to go over those at some point, Dave.
Yeah, why don't you do that now?
Okay. So it says, project does not appear to comply with 10.585E and possible A. The narrative notes that proposed roof runoff to a dry well and planting trees is intended to improve the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests of the WPA as required by 10.585A. However, the commission should consider if replacement of trees removed without Concom authorization, which appears to be the case, would meet that requirement. The project does not provide 1-to-1 restoration or 2-to-1 mitigation under 10.585F or G for increases in degraded area as required by 10.585E. It appears the applicant wishes to convert previously disturbed areas that are not degraded into degraded areas. As such, they must provide 1-to-1 restoration or 2-to-1 mitigation per 10.585E. If the applicant chooses to have the stormwater dry well count as required mitigation, some other improvement would be needed to meet 10.585A. And I should note that when this was reviewed, the proposed alteration was 591 square feet in the rear front area. So I don't know if that included the deck, which we had determined wouldn't count towards impervious.
I think it did.
Yeah.
And I believe since that time we've proposed the no mow, naturalized area since
So
those,
is it just so you're not putting seed or anything in there? It's just gonna be whatever shows up in the lawn area there, or
we were proposing a seed mix, yeah.
in the extended area as well? Towards the front?
In this area here.
Yeah, what about where the placards are continued along?
Oh, that's shown as wooded already, so
okay.
There's vegetation here, I guess, according
Okay.
to the surveyor. So, yeah.
Okay. So you have so if it's 220 square feet of new impervious, then you have 440 square feet of the mitigation area.
We have 374 square feet of, I believe,
Yeah, so I guess it's it needs to be 440 square feet because it has to be 2 to 1.
Is that the only impact of their comments?
Yeah, that's what they had on their website.
Okay. Let's go to commissioners, see if they have any comments. I'm sure there will be some comments here. Let's start with Sue.
Yeah. Not much more has been mentioned about work in the 25-foot zone, which is the propane tank. So I'm just going to repeat my feeling on it. The fact that there was no permit, that it was just plopped in the, part of it in the 25-foot zone, totally against our regulations. I just don't feel it should be left there. And that's my main, it's been was such a violation anyway with no permit and doing this. And I just want to express my feeling about this is no precedent to start with these propane tanks. It would be a very, in my view, it would be a very bad precedent to start putting part of a propane tank in the 25-foot no activity zone. And I'll end there.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, I agree with Sue that the tank seems to be sitting there and not being discussed. And there seems to be a pushback not to move the tank. And I also like to ask a question. A while back, we talked about finding that other tree that was removed on the site. And I've never seen that show up. And I think there was a tree that was right near the tank that was cut down and the stump grinded down. I may be wrong. But anyways, back to the 25-foot buffer zone and the tank, and it's within that area, and it seems to be against our regulations. So, yeah, is there any reason it can't be moved?
I mean, you're asking me, the project proponent, the applicant, wishes to not move it. From the research that we've done, propane tank, I realize it's in the buffers, it's 25-foot buffer zone, but propane tanks are coated with an anti-corrosive material. They are actually safer than above ground propane tanks for it to be in the ground, because it's not as subject to fluctuations in temperatures and whatnot. And if it does leak, it's a gas. It doesn't harm the soil. It just evaporates into the air. So anyway, that's my response. And yeah, the proponent wishes to not move it, just a few feet. Would like to keep it where it is, because then he'd have to move the pipes as well that are trenched through there to get out to the tank.
Okay, my concern is partially the propane, but it's actually the tank itself, and that just the work and the activity and the construction of the tank in the 25-foot zone is, again, against the regulations, regardless of what is contained within the tank. It's still an impervious soil. It's an impervious surface to water flow. And much of the regulations talk about groundwater and not to disturb that and keeping the soil the same and natural soil, especially within the 25-foot buffer zone. And so that's why I think that the tank should be moved regardless of what it contains, and out of the 25-foot buffer zone, and as far away as possible from the resource area.
Okay, anything else, Bill?
Still looking for that other tree, but other than that, no.
Okay, Fred?
So I had been thinking along the lines that since this disturbance within the 25-foot zone had already been done, that it might be that one might argue for compensating for this error by adding additional untouchable, naturalized area. But now this note from the DEP suggests that we miscalculated, and that even with that additional area there in the back corner that we bargained for, that we're still below what is mandated. So I'm sort of curious if anyone understands why we missed that in calculating the the required mitigation area. I'm still persuadable that preserving more land that won't revert to lawn and other kinds of maintenance activity on and on in time could be a reasonable trade-off, but I don't understand how we missed the calculation there.
May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that the comment by the DEP reviewer isn't necessarily accurate, because it's supposed to be the percentage above the degraded area. And maybe Clay, I know Clay understands this better than probably all of us. Do you want to weigh in, Clay, on that? Because
So the existing house is more than 10% of the property. So for each square foot you go above what is existing, you have to do 2-to-1 mitigation for that. So it's as simple as that.
That's pretty much correct. After you are over the 10% in redevelopment, for every square foot of new degraded area, you have to either 1-to-1 make up for it, where you're replacing other degraded to renaturalized, or 2-to-1, as they call mitigation, 2 square feet for every 1 square foot of new degraded, to be return to natural of non-degraded but otherwise disturbed area. So in this case, it would be for the porch, if that's the primarily only or the only new impervious, you'd have to go 2 to 1 square feet of reclamation of lawn, for example.
When is it 1 to 1 then?
If you, let's say you had a driveway, and you were proposing to remove that degraded area, the driveway lacks topsoil, that's where it would be 1 to 1. If you had degraded area, or if there was a shed or another portion of area lacking topsoil that falls under that degraded category, you could 1 to 1 on reclamation essentially of degraded area. But where it's usually lawn or other disturbed areas that still have topsoil that don't fall into the degraded, but rather just disturbed, that's where it's 2 to 1 for replacement for mitigation.
Okay, thanks, Clay. Any other comments, Fred?
No, I mean, maybe maybe there's a way to redraw this so that it reaches the 440 square foot requirement and add some. I mean, maybe we want to just draw it where the 25-foot buffer zone is, for example. But I mean, I'd have to do the math, but I guess that's what I would be interested in seeing.
Okay. Paulina, do you have any comments?
Yes, I have a question. Where the tank is located now, was that an existing lawn in the past?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So I think, not to open up a can of worms here, but an underground tank or anything that's underground is not really considered impervious surface. And I mean, I know it's within the 25 feet, but our regulations do allow, they say they may be permitted to construct within 25 feet. If you're adding a deck or patio, which I know is not an underground tank, but it's essentially something where no impervious surfaces are proposed and the work area is an existing lawn. So I'm not sure if that makes people more comfortable about this storage tank, or how anybody wants to interpret that. That's my only comment about the 25-foot buffer zone with a storage tank into it. I don't have any additional comments or questions that haven't been asked.
Okay, thanks. And Clary, again, I know you're coming in cold here, but
No, but this is right up my alley. So, you know what I believe might be beneficial is, and I'm just going to propose this, and maybe is something that will probably demonstrate not only the existing or pre-existing conditions before the disturbance was done in the project that you're proposing, but I would like to see a table. I work well visually on a table that depicts the original conditions, the impacted areas quantified, especially because I want to be clear on what it is that DEP is saying, and I really haven't had the chance to look through it. So if you can put together a very, basic table that depicts, what it is that was impacted, what are you proposing to mitigate, and the ratio, that will be for me a lot more clear than what I'm seeing right now, especially because I would like to take a look at DEP's comments against what comes out of that. That's one suggestion. In terms of the underground storage tank, so my experience working with underground storage tanks and MCP compliance and all of that is extensive.
It's a propane tank. Sorry, it's a propane tank.
Right. Right. So I see here that the percentage of the tank that is within that 20-foot buffer zone. I would like to understand what is the percentage. And I think if this commission were to consider in the future understanding any kind of mitigations to this, we would need to understand the amount of impervious that was introduced into the 25-foot buffer zone. So that's one thought that comes to mind. Obviously, the tank is in the ground. The trench has been completed. So we need to calculate either compensation or other. And that is the only way that I would approach it, to understand the percent of the impacted 25-foot buffer zone by this propane tank, underground propane tank.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah. Nope, that's all.
Oh, okay. I know Sue has her hand up, but I just would like to make a couple comments. Underground storage tank is not considered an impervious structure. So I know several people have alluded to that, but the DEP doesn't consider an underground storage tank an impervious structure. So the second comment is, as far as the required mitigation for, going over for adding impervious area, my understanding, and Clay had summarized this, is that if the existing, or if the proposed, no, I guess if the existing impervious area was more than 10% of the property, then anything above, anything new would have to be mitigated by a 2-to-1 ratio. And so I think, Fred had asked a question about how do we misinterpret that. I don't know if we misinterpreted it, but right now, my understanding is that the additional impervious area is 220 square feet. Therefore, the DEP would require a mitigation of 440 square feet. And that doesn't include any additional mitigation that the commission might require or ask for to compensate for the violations of the regulations. And I would point out that, the violations that we have include the tank, which is in the 25-foot zone. It's also 2 trees were removed without any permission. And further, the deck and the porch were added after the commission specifically told the applicant, don't do any work outside until they get an approved order of conditions. And so we got like 4 or 5 different violations here. I just wanted to remind everybody of that. Okay, so Sue, you had your hand up?
Yeah, a couple things I did say that DEP does not consider an underground tank like that impermeable, but I do feel it's going to affect drainage. I mean, in that area. But I also feel that any research information on propane tanks, how good they are, is totally irrelevant to the situation. I feel that, as you were saying, Dave, the violations, all the main violations that were made, what was I going to say?
Yeah, I mean, the violations are what, what we're thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, this was a heavy violation to go ahead and put a propane tank anywhere on that site. But
not anywhere. I think the violation is only that they went into the 25-foot zone.
But there was no permit with it.
Right, that's a violation. They could, if they had moved the tank a couple feet to the north, then
what I
wouldn't be talking about it.
What I feel is that again, any research on how good a propane tank is totally irrelevant situation. I feel it's totally, this is totally going against our regulations in addition to a severe violation. And I would hate to see this stay there. So if it comes up again, which it will, because these new houses are doing the propane gas tanks. I have one right next door. I think we have to set a precedent on this, that they cannot go into the 25-foot zone. That they can't. I mean, it's totally against our regulations, period.
Yeah,
so
no,
that's how
I think, you know, past few meetings, your position is quite clear.
I know.
And I agree with what you said, that, you know, this isn't really an environmental issue or a safety issue. It's purely a violation of our regulations. And, you know, as I said at our last meeting, the choice before us would be, you know, to either ask or require the applicant to move the tank, or ask for additional compensation. Those are the two choices that I see. Now, that's something that, you know, we can vote on and, you know, put this to bed, hopefully. Bill, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to comment that certainly the surface of a metal tank is impervious. If you want to say it's doesn't cause an impervious to surface water, as the water needs to go from the surface into the ground, okay, that's somewhere in your regulations. But it's certainly impervious to the groundwater. And every time water is mentioned in our regulations, groundwater is also mentioned. And sometimes it's mentioned by itself. And you have to consider that the groundwater is moving through the ground and it's hitting this impervious surface and it's going around it, or maybe it's percolating up. I'm not sure. But
Yeah,
those are other...
Bill, this tank is not in, this tank is in the unsaturated zone. It's not in the groundwater. So, you know, what happens is water falls on the surface of the ground and it infiltrates down. So, you know, it's not in the groundwater.
Okay. So we don't have to consider the flow of groundwater here.
I think it's important. I think that's important with abutting properties too. How that the flow of the groundwater is going to change with a tank underneath like that. Anyway,
if the tank is not in the groundwater, it's very difficult for it to affect the flow of the ground. That's
what about?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a fact.
What about heavy precipitation?
Well, I mean, that's, you know, once the ground gets saturated, it runs off into the ditch. That's the whole reason why the ditch is there. Or the Alder Brook, I guess they call it. But anyway, I think just that the issue in my mind is that it's a violation, and, you know, we can choose how we handle the violation. And you know, some of these environmental arguments, you know, I don't think are that significant, but
I think it's also not this shouldn't have never happened, and that I wouldn't want to see it.
We get that. You know, we've been talking about this for like several meetings, and I think we all agree that it should never happen. And so
right. But
so now we have to decide on how we're going to deal with it.
Right.
You have two more hands raised.
Yeah, I see. Bill, you got your hand raised, and
I guess I didn't lower it, but once again, I think we do have to consider environmental issues to help us make our decisions. But regardless, the initial decision as to whether to allow this to happen or not, I think that's the crux of the matter here.
Okay.
And it's a question of granting the variance or not.
Okay.
And perhaps we should close discussion and vote on that.
Yeah, it's a clear violation. There's no question about that. And there's other violations here too. But so Polina, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to comment about the groundwater. I mean, if you look at it, if you look at the topo on this plan, it seems like everything's flowing down towards the brook. So I don't know if it's really going to be, I don't think it's going to impede any groundwater flow. I think it's just going to go around the tank and down and towards the brook, even during heavy rains. So I personally don't see that as an issue. And I guess I also I think it was a violation for it to be put in without coming before the commission, and we don't have anything in our regulations that specifically talks about underground propane tanks, or I think propane tanks in general. But I think we could, if it makes people feel better, but it probably doesn't. It does allow construction within the 25-foot buffer zone if there's no new impervious surfaces, which this tank, since it's underground, it's not an impervious surface. And the work was located within the existing lawn. So I don't think it's necessarily setting a precedent. I think it would be a good idea for us to review our regulations and include propane tanks or oil tanks in our regulations, but I don't know if that eases anybody's mind about setting precedent.
And also you do have the $1,000 waiver check that they submitted. So, it's within your rights to not give any of that back. So you can think of that as a type for doing
Okay.
work 25 foot.
Clary, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Paulina. You kind of read my mind. I do agree with Paulina. I do believe that the impact and the violation, since it was done, I would like to see some level of compensation for whatever percentage is of the tank within that 25-foot buffer zone. How we come up with, or how the applicant comes up with a proposal for that, I'm unsure. But the way that I see it is there is and has to be some level of compensation for that. If we were to enforce the removal of the tank simply because it was a violation and we didn't want to establish a precedent, we're talking about upwards of maybe $3,000. Something like that. So I think what I wanted to see would be some kind of a proposal coming back from the applicant on this particular issue relative to the violation. I think the impact on groundwater is de minimis in comparison to other impervious areas that are constructed on site, but again, I cannot say because I'm not seeing that total percentage of change in the site versus the impact of the violations versus the mitigations. And to me, it's really unclear. And I would like clarity on that.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, Clary, are you asking for what percentage of the 25-foot buffer zone area is made up of that tank, or you're asking what percentage of the tank lies in the 25 zone?
That's correct. The percentage of the tank that lies within that 25
Okay.
zone. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify what you were asking.
Yeah, just eyeballing it looks like maybe 25% of the tank.
Right. And I think if it's 25% of the tank, and let's say and I'm just again plain devil's advocate here, trying to figure out a potential solution, or at least guide the discussion also for the rest of the board members. And let's say the tank removal would be upwards of, I don't know, $3,000. I'm just throwing a number out there. It would be important for us to understand that so that a compensation can be calculated for that particular. And I agree, it establishes a precedent, but at the same time, if we do it in a quantitative way and request a proper compensation for the impact of the violation, then I think in the future, it would be much easier to go back to this and have an idea of what we need to do. And hopefully in the future, we won't come across this kind of situation. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments or are these residual hands raised here?
Done.
Okay, so I think we agree that there were significant violations. We're talking about this tank. The tank's about 10 feet long. I would guess about 2 to 3 feet of the tank is in the 25-foot zone. The applicant needs to provide a 440 square foot mitigation area just to comply with the riverfront regulations. It's unclear where they can provide additional compensation as far as the monetary compensation. I think we discussed that a couple of meetings ago, and that's another possibility. Also, we were talking about some fines for the other violations. There are like 5 violations, and I think the fine is about $200 per violation, something in that neighborhood. So, we'd have to add that in as well. So I think the big question is, do we require the applicant to move the tank? I don't think we're asking them or would ask them to remove the tank because, if it's outside of the 25-foot zone, they have a perfect right to put the tank in. So I think the question is, do we ask them to remove the tank, move the tank, or do we grant a waiver? And so I'm going to ask the commission, do you want to vote on that tonight, or do you want to wait for some response from the applicant, some further response from the applicant? Some offer from the applicant? I mean,
I do believe, I don't feel comfortable voting on that unless I see what kind of compensation and a proposal. I don't feel comfortable, but that's me.
Okay. So any other comments?
I feel more input from the applicant himself is important.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. So we haven't even heard from the applicant.
No.
At a minimum, I think they should apologize for, violating our regulations 5 times. But so I guess we can continue this hearing and ask the applicant to propose some compensation, either monetary or additional mitigation. However, I would like to say that I would hate if the commission is not going to accept this waiver, then I'd hate to drag this thing out.
Well,
I think we can reject. If we could vote on the waiver and then discuss the compensation if we agree to grant the waiver. If we don't grant the waiver, then I think we still have fines to consider. But
so wouldn't, as Clary said, wouldn't the compensation or the penalties go hand in hand with the waiver request, and then you would?
No, the waiver request would be, are we going to grant a waiver or not? They paid the waiver fee, and I don't think we would, waive the waiver fee. So once we, if we grant the waiver, then we can discuss the compensation. I don't see any reason to have it all figured out now, but that's just my opinion. I mean, whatever the commission wants to do.
I think it's fair. I think it's out of fairness to hear the applicant.
Okay. All right. That's fine. So I guess we'll continue the hearing to to the next.
So is Sue clear about what she's doing at this?
Right.
Well, I'm just uncertain on how to quantify the percent of the tank that is in the 25-foot buffer zone. How does that equate to mitigation? Like,
I think that's a moot issue. I mean, again, the tank's, 10 feet long and it's probably 3 feet in diameter and it's
25%.
Yeah, 25. So, I mean, the actual impact isn't that great. If it's slid back, 2 or 3 feet, it's basically got the same environmental impact. So I think that's like a red herring. I think the real issue is what kind of compensation, either additional mitigation or financial, will the applicant offer?
Well, he can't offer us anything financially. I mean, all we can do is fine him.
Oh, well,
I mean, I can look for additional mitigation, like somewhere in the 25-foot.
but yeah, and I think that's great. But what concerns me is if the commission is adamant about moving the tank, then
Right, then why?
it's sort of like not a dead end kind of
Right.
thing. And I think in the commission there's at least 2 members who are going to require or want the tank to be moved.
Should we vote
And
on that then, or
yeah,
maybe
that's what
just
I've
get
been that's what I've
yeah.
been suggesting.
I-
We can take a straw poll if you want, but I think the sooner we just get to this, the better, I think.
But Dave, I also think it depends on how much of a financial violation fees that are going to be imposed. I mean, I think that.
Well, according to Deb, we can't ask the applicant for money, and all
No, but the fees, the violation fees. I mean, per day. I mean, we could.
No, it's gonna be about $1,000.
Yeah,
It's gonna be what we can fine them. Because it's not like they have fill in an area or something day after day. The trees are kind of a one-time thing. The construction of the deck's a one-time thing. The construction of the porch is a one-time thing.
Is that in addition to the $1,000 work, no waiver for work in the 25-foot?
That's a separate thing.
So,
But as far as what we can fine, it's going to end up being around $1,000.
So it could be up to $2,000 or so.
That we would be getting from the applicant total, yes.
Maybe more.
So my suggestion would be that
Can you
we
raise your hand, Fred?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
My suggestion would be that that Sue, if you could ask the owner to come back with a new mitigation plan that would include the 440 square feet and some, whether there's something more that he would like to voluntarily include in a naturalized protected zone.
To compensate for the portion of the tank.
To compensate for the errors that were made in the way he went about this. And then we could consider that in the next meeting.
Or a proposal if Carrie's suggesting it might be a $3,000 cost to remove the tank and replace it, maybe there could be the not 2,000, but somehow we could add up to 3,000 a violation fee total. I mean,
again, according to Deb, we can't, all we can do is fine them according to the parameters that are laid out. We can't ask them for money beyond that.
It's just, it's so many violations. I mean, per day, you could do it just per day.
Yeah,
with some-
but most of them are just one time. You can't, that's mainly for if they have filled a wetland or something like that, the per day. These are kind of like one-shot deals that they did. And we haven't issued an enforcement order telling them they need to remove the deck or something that they haven't done. We never issued an enforcement order on this.
Yeah, you gotta go to court though, issue an enforcement order. But anyway, look, let's just summarize this. You know, there were a number of violations, like 5 or so. And no matter what happens, I feel that the applicant should be fined there, so that's about $1,000 fine. Whether or not we grant a waiver, I think is contingent upon what the applicant is going to offer. Not monetarily, but in terms of additional compensation. I've said several times that, you know, my opinion is that digging up that tank and moving it 2 feet or 3 feet is going to have worse environmental consequences than just leaving it there. And I would rather see an improvement to the environment, improvement to the buffer zone in lieu of digging up the tank. But again, that's just my opinion. And
I do. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I know there's differing opinions, but again,
I agree.
I was just saying, I do feel the applicant he is obligated to come before us, you know, because of these violations. He should come before the Conservation Commission anyway, and to offer the, you know, compensations and to, you know, just for the violation. He hasn't appeared. I mean, I think he should.
I'm sorry. Sue MacArthur, do you want me to call him and tell him, you know, that this is just going to keep going on until he?
I would greatly appreciate that because
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
I'll give him a call because it doesn't sound like this is going to come to you know, an end unless he actually shows and talks to the commission. So I'll
Okay.
reach out to him and send him an invite.
Great idea, Deb.
okay, so can I have a motion to continue this hearing to August 22nd, 2024?
You need to ask if there's audience people.
Uh,
Or is that?
yeah, I doubt it, but you know.
Okay.
Clay, is there anybody?
There are no hands. There's one hand actually.
Okay,
Just a moment.
sorry about that.
Hi, I am the neighbor, the direct abutter to that property. And the tank is about 100 yards from my property. So, I mean, at some point, I'd love to know what decision you're going to make. You've been postponing these meetings or rescheduling them now for well over a month. He's been working outside the property every day. There are contractors there from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. So I would love to know what's going to happen with the tank. I love Sue's idea about removing the tank.
Well, can I clarify something? Removing the tank hasn't never been on the table. It's moving the tank. Okay, moving the tank 2 feet north or 2.5 feet or 3 feet north so that it is not in the 25-foot zone. That has been what we've been discussing. The applicant has a right to put the tank outside of the 25-foot zone. I suppose the Conservation Commission could tell the applicant not to do that, but I don't know what basis that would be based on. But so I don't know if that helps you.
I mean, we've talked about the deck. We've talked about the front porch. No decision has been made on it. The back deck is bigger than the original deck that was on that house.
Yeah,
This feels exhausting.
it is,
I'll
it is.
tell you, it's
You know,
exhausting. I've
we're
been
trying
on
to-
every meeting. It's
we're trying-
exhausting.
We're trying to get to a conclusion. However, you know, I think the issue that we're dealing with is how to deal with the violations. Okay, they have a right to put up a porch. They have a right to put up a deck. They have a right to put in a storage tank. And you know, if they had come to the commission in the first place, I think we would have approved all that. You know, assuming that the tank was outside of the 25-foot zone, you know, so this discussion we've been having has been, you know, primarily about how do we deal with the violations, not, you know, how we're gonna tell them to remove all the stuff that was in the violations.
Do you have any idea when you'll be making this decision? Because we've spent a lot of time on these meetings. And so I'm rescheduling things in my own life to be at these meetings over the past 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or however long it's been going on, because I feel obligated to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate the time and effort, you know, for attending these meetings. I guess you know, I was hoping we could vote on this meeting, but I think the consensus was that we would vote on the violation issue and the waiver request at our next meeting.
Okay. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay. I mean, do you have any issue about, you know, the wetland issue, or you're just concerned about the tank is close to your house?
I'm concerned about all of it. Hadn't you sent this notice, I would not have known. There has been no communication between the builder, the owner, whoever he is, and the neighbors.
Right.
We saw, one day we showed up, and one day I went outside and there were men working there. The sign hadn't even shown up that the property was sold. No communication at all, and we live here.
Yeah, yeah, that's of concern, but it's not, you know, really an issue for the Conservation Commission.
I hear you, and I understand that. I'm just saying that he has been non-responsive. I've had to go over and speak to his workers about a number of things, about the way they kept the property. They were leaving garbage on the street. I've spoken to them. They tell me they don't speak English. I've not been able to get in touch with him to even express any concern about his workers and the loud music that they start playing at 8 o'clock in the morning until they leave at 7 at night. So
yeah, so
good luck trying to get him to your meeting.
Yeah, have you I would suggest that you talk to the building department, you know, and maybe they'll, you know, issue some warnings or whatever, but that kind of stuff is under their purview.
Okay, well, I would love for you to make a decision sooner rather than later, because school's starting soon and my schedule is going to change. And I'd love to continue to come to these meetings, but I also have other obligations, just like other people who are probably on this call. So the sooner you
yeah,
come
and
to
this
decision,
commission is
better.
also volunteers,
Yeah.
so they have a life outside of here as well.
Yeah.
Right, but we understand your feeling.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I asked for a motion to continue the hearing for 17 George Agate Road, DEP file 234-930 to August 22nd, 2024.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Okay, let's vote here. Sue?
Aye.
Clary?
Aye.
Reed's not here. Bill?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Paulina?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you a couple weeks, Susan.
Fuck.
All right. Okay, so the last item on the agenda is 1659 Great Plain Avenue, request for determination of applicability. I believe this is just a Needham wetlands issue. It doesn't involve the state, but I could be wrong. I'd also point out that the this project came before the commission about a year ago, when they built, they asked for a determination of applicability for the tear down and construction of the house, and the commission granted a negative determination of applicability based on the fact that only a very minor slice of the property of the proposed house was within the 100-foot buffer zone. And now the applicant is looking to put in a patio and a pool that would be, I believe, between the the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer zone lines. So is there somebody from the applicant that wants to give us a little summary?
Yes, good evening, Paul Finocchio, PGF and Associates. I'm here on behalf of John and Desiree Jackson. They are the current owners of the property. They recently purchased this a few months ago, and they are proposing to install an in-ground pool and also put a new patio in the rear portion of the house and install a retaining wall in the back portion of the lot with some patio stones. Property, as you stated, the pool and the patio are outside the 50-foot and within the 100-foot buffer zone. I can, if you want, I can share a copy of the plan if you want to.
Yeah, that might be helpful. Yeah,
that'd be easier. So presently, this is the existing house. Is the 50-foot buffer line. It runs right along towards the property line, and this is the 100-foot buffer. And there is an existing patio that's right here, and they're going to expand that patio to this side. And then there'll be a proposed pool, which is a 16 by 32 in-ground pool, which would be located between the two infiltrator systems. There is a pipe that connects the two that will be relocated once the pool is installed. And they prior to installation of the pool construction, there'll be silt fence and silt sock installed along the rear property line as shown. And there'll be a 18 to 24-inch retaining wall to bring up the grade level in this back portion. And there'll be some patio stones placed along that portion there.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Let me ask Deb if she has any comments.
So there wasn't any tree removal for this project, correct?
No, there's no trees. There's actually, they put in 2 trees. There's one here in the corner and another one up over here. So on the existing plan that was submitted back in 23, it didn't show any trees on the property.
Okay. So all of the work is outside the 50-foot, correct?
Correct.
Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, let's go to the commissioners. Sue?
No comment.
Clary?
No comment.
Oh, Reed's not here. Bill?
Are you looking for an exemption from regulation under the bylaw?
They're looking for a negative determination of applicability, which means that we could issue a few requirements, but they do not have to submit an NOI.
So would you look under to see if that would occur? Would that be in under the heading of minor activities exempt from the regulation under the bylaw, which says it has to be, for a pool, it should be more than 75 feet from the resource area.
Right, but the way the regulations are written is if it was outside of the 75-foot zone, they would not have to request a determination of applicability.
Okay.
Because it's within the 50-foot to 100-foot area, they have to request a determination of applicability.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, anything else, Phil?
Nope.
Fred?
Does an increase in impervious surfaces apply in any regulation here or not?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's my only question.
Other than, we could talk about whether what's impervious, is the patio impervious or not.
So it's not in riverfront area, so we don't have that standard with the increase in impervious area since it's just in buffer zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Paulina?
Have any questions?
Okay. Only question I have is, I'm a little unclear on this proposed patio. Like, I think you said some of it exists, but I don't recall in the original request for determination of applicability that there was a patio. I thought it was just that little sliver of property, a little sliver of the house that fell within 100-foot zone. So could you clarify that?
Well, if you look on their 2023 plan, it shows a patio in the back of the house. And that was.
Do you have that plan?
I have a copy of it in front of me. I don't have it on it was sent to me from your office.
Yeah, okay.
So they do show the proposed house and the patio. In the patio's in the back of the house. So it's basically patio shows on the proposed plan, it runs this way, up and over. And on the as-built plan, it's here, up, over, across, and back.
Okay. Oh, is that patio pervious or impervious?
I'm not sure if it's previous pavers, but there's a sand in between them. So this would probably be the same style with the.
Maybe 50%.
Maybe, yeah, we're probably increasing this impervious area from 200 plus minus to 400. So it's an increase of 200 square feet of impervious area.
Okay. Any other comments?
I have one question.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed you.
No, it's fine. I have one question. How is the pool going to be drained? Is it going to be connected to public sewer lines or I can't make out how this pool is going to be drained annually.
It goes through a filtration system, so I'm not sure on it's going to be filtered, but it's not going to be connected to the sewer, that's for sure. It has my understanding on the pool, it has a high ion thing, so it keeps the amount of chlorine down to a low level. And it's not going to be drained because it has a filtration system and it has to be kept water in it so it doesn't have buoyancy, so it doesn't lift.
Right. So it won't be drained annually into the environment.
Correct.
I have no other questions.
I thought you were gonna, dump it into the infiltration system. Because you got
the reason that I ask is because I have seen, well, I know of people who would drain their pools into the environment and just pump it out. And I would like to understand what's the plan with this in particular because of the close proximity.
I don't know. I'd have to let me see if I can get in touch with the pool company.
Mark is on the call, isn't he? Mark O'Hearn. Paul?
I don't know.
Yep. He's over at attendees. I'll move him over now.
Okay.
Move him over. Thank you, Clay.
I see Mark. Can't hear him though. Can you hear us, Mark? Hello? Mark? Are you on mute? Can you hear us? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
I saw him.
Yeah, he's on the. He's on mute. Mark, can you unmute yourself? All right. I guess he's having technical issues.
I think Paul's calling him. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I think,
Can I ask a question in the meantime?
yeah. Oh, Polina, do you have
I wonder if we could maybe either include in the order of conditions or have the applicant submit like a maintenance plan so that we know how they plan to drain the pool and clean it and what they plan to do. And my other question would be probably to Mark. He could answer it, but I'm not familiar with pools, but I thought there was something the way pools operate now. I think if you let the water stand for a few days, it's almost like the chlorine dissolves.
Yeah,
and then
that is true.
And then it becomes like fresh water. So if you dump it, it's not toxic to the resources nearby. Not saying that you should be dumping it into the resources, but
we don't want people
just
dumping
mentioning it.
Yeah, I just spoke with Mark and he says what they do is they lower the water a foot, they let it settle for a few days, and then they can put it into the infiltration system.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because that's done in other places. All right, so any other questions from the commission? I know, Deb, do you want to relate what Reed's comment was? Or
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, his comment was essentially that he thought that that we should require them to file a notice of intent because of the amount of work that was going to take place. But I don't know if he, realized that it's really an exempt activity under the Wetlands Protection Act because of the distance. But that was his comment essentially that he emailed to me.
well, it's only exempt if it's 75 feet away.
I know. Well, I'm talking about the Wetlands Protection Act.
All right. Yeah. I just have one final question. The wetlands is basically a channelized ditch behind the property.
I didn't locate it and I haven't been out in the back of the abutter's property. I'm just taking it from what was shown on the original plan for a filing.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the like a aerial photograph, it looks like there's a ditch with a few bridges across it. It doesn't look like a wetlands, but it's obviously and it could be considered an intermittent stream. Okay, so does the commission want to vote on this? Or somebody want to make a motion? If we all feel favorable on this, then the motion should be to issue a negative determination of
You
applicability.
have to close the hearing first.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah, I
can
gotta,
we,
gotta ask if there's any public comment. Clay, anybody out there?
did we
Uh,
want to, did we want to have them submit a maintenance plan?
Well, we don't, if it's just a negative determination, how do we enforce it?
I don't know if you necessarily will be able to enforce it, but you'll be able to know what, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I would argue that you could probably issue a negative number 3 and say that it's exempt subject to the submission of a maintenance plan to ensure operation doesn't constitute a future violation.
All right, that's a good idea.
And there are no hands in the audience raised.
So,
Okay, so can I have a motion to close the hearing for 1659 Great Plain Avenue?
um,
Motion to close.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Clary,
Aye.
Bill,
aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Paulina, yeah, Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, so now we should entertain a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for 1659 Great Plain Avenue.
A second.
I didn't, I'll move that we issue a negative determination for 1659 Great Plain Avenue. Sue, you second? Yes? A second? Anybody want to second it?
I
I'll
second.
second. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Clary,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Helena,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, so basically at some point we'd be looking for a pool maintenance plan.
Yeah, if you want to drop it off when I let you know that the determination is ready to pick up, we can kind of swap at the same time.
Okay, I can do that, and I'll also email it. I'll get it from Mark on the pool company.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So any other business? No? It's getting kind of late. I know we got some comments on the regulations from Reed, and that will be distributed by Debbie at some point.
Yeah, I'll upload it to the Dropbox.
Yeah, and then, anybody else that hasn't commented, feel free to comment, because I think, we got an opportunity to make some improvements. And yeah.
So
Anything else?
just following up on Paulina's mention of how we address in the future underground storage tanks. I haven't read the entire bylaws and the Wetland Protection Act for Needham, so I really don't, I have to get really familiar with all the regulations.
Yeah.
But
it's not really addressed in any of our,
right.
and
So
it's not,
how, yeah,
and it's not addressed in the state regulations either.
right. I guess, I don't know how the commission would go about this, but I understand that establishing precedents is really important, but I'm wondering if internally we can obviously not amend well, we could amend the wetlands, but I guess what do you recommend moving forward when we address these issues with underground storage tanks? How would you propose we either change, amend, or incorporate some language or some guidance maybe
Yeah,
in
I
reference
mean,
to this. It
we
doesn't have
can,
to be in the bylaws, but maybe some guidance.
no, we have the bylaw, which is difficult to change. It has to go to town meeting. And we have the regulations. Okay, and so we've been talking about modifying the regulations and improving them, getting rid of some ambiguities and all that. So if people feel strongly about underground storage tanks, then we can, include that in our regulations. And once we finalize how we want to change the regulations, we just have to notice a public hearing and go from there. So it's a
Okay.
lot easier than changing the bylaw.
Okay.
We obviously can't change the state regulations.
Right.
But I think, if we want, we can change our own local regulations.
And this is the first time it's ever come before us too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe even some guidance would be helpful if it's simpler. I just think it's worthy of mentioning somewhere.
Yeah, okay. So, Paulina, you got your hand up?
I was going to say, Clary, this is a great opportunity because right now we're looking at our regulations and trying to improve them and add to them. So I think this would be a great place to, to mention underground storage tanks. I don't know if it'll be also a good idea to like call out a few other items that might be controversial, like pools, or I'm not sure. I'm fairly new at this commission, so I don't know what other controversial topics have come up that we might want to address. But I would say I personally think that we should stay away from policies just because we can't really enforce them, and we should really put things in regulations. But
so is that happening now? The review of the regulations?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've sent all those to you.
Yes.
So, when you get a chance, take a look at them. My understanding is Reed had made some significant edits. He's an attorney, and so he kind of digs that kind of stuff. I had just made some general notes, but yeah, anybody that has an interest, feel free to go through those. I don't think you have to propose the specific language. Okay, you should just raise the issue and maybe explain the background. But everything's on the table, and these regulations, we can enforce these regulations. Okay, our bylaw gives us the right to issue regulations, and we can enforce them. Now, if people don't agree with the regulations, they can take us to court.
Right.
But it's a more onerous process than appealing the state. You actually have to go to Superior Court to
right. Superseding orders are not fun.
Yeah.
But I was wondering why, if this person had 5 violations, why we didn't ask them to cease work.
We did.
We did, and they're still working.
Well, the first violation was the trees, but nobody knew about that. The second violation, we got a neighbor called and said that they were digging it and installing a tank. Okay, and so we told them to stop work, and the tank was already installed by then, but
then they asked if they could fill in the area of the tank because it was a hazard.
Yeah, it wasn't backfilled. And so we said, yeah, you could fill it in, but this is not approval. We gotta, take this up when you apply for your permit. And then they also asked us to do work on the inside of the house and close up the house because it was raining, and in good faith, he said, yeah, you could close up the house, but don't do any work outside on the, don't disturb the ground. And that's when they put in the porch and put in the deck. So yeah, they were
still work on it. It's still continuing to work on it.
Yeah, I don't think.
I've been by there, Sue. They did ask for permission. There was it's like a sewer main leak or a water line leak or something that the police and fire were down there that they needed to excavate to repair that.
Yeah, there
So
was
we
a-
had to give them permission for that. But besides that, they haven't done anything else outside.
Yeah, there was an
Okay.
emergency.
Okay, so we did ask him to stop work.
Yep.
Okay.
And we,
Because-
and we were trying to, cut them a little slack, so to speak, in good faith, but obviously,
Get
I don't-
back for
to be honest, I'm kind of irritated that they haven't shown their face to the commission, even though we specifically asked them to.
Well, I know that Sue MacArthur asked them to, and
Yeah, I mean, I think she's doing a good job, but anyway.
She's doing a great job.
Yeah, if there's no other comments, let's have a motion to close the meeting.
I
Motion to
move that
adjourn.
we adjourn.
Second, anybody?
Hint.
Awesome.
A
All right,
second.
Helena seconds. Let's raise your hand.
Oh, and welcome, Clary.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, you guys weren't here when we introduced Clary, but I think we're really lucky to get somebody like Clary. She has a lot of experience, directly relevant experience. She's worked on both sides of the table,
And superseding orders, which are my favorite.
yeah. All right, great. Thanks, everybody, and
Bye-bye.
It's great to be here.
we'll
Thank
see
you
you in a
all.
couple of weeks.
Good night.
All
Good
right.
night.
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks, Dave and Deb and everyone.
And
Yep.
Clay, thank you.
Bye.
Hope you're feeling better, Clay.
Thanks. Good night.
And Clay, I never saw. Thank you, Clay.